For all of you lovely people who are watching the replay, we'll give us a couple more minutes to gather in some stragglers since our technology was terrible. I swear, I'm giving up on Zoom. So, all right. Well, we have a couple viewers. That's probably all us, though. So, all right. LeighAnn, go ahead and introduce yourself for us so that the people who don't know you can get to know you.
Hi, I'm LeighAnn, and I am a coach for people who want to scale their business by using events and by using their messaging and also getting into media, PR, podcasts, all those things to develop a business plan based on that instead of actually what most people do is do Facebook ads or they do social media posting. I do some of that too. So a lot of my stuff is about your message. So my message coaching is very effective to get people to start reaching out to you without having to develop and nurture an audience for 6 months. You can usually have somebody coming right away. So it's a lovely thing. But I also am a firm believer in PR. And I'm a firm believer in getting into events to get you better leads. I think better quality leads that are ready to invest. And also a wider market you're going to share instead of having to build your own market, because Facebook ads are based on getting this cold market to come in. Now you've got to warm them up. Now you've got to engage them. Now your content has to be right on spot or you will lose them. So that model is sort of hard to sustain unless you really have a lot of audience already. You already have all these email addresses in. If you're trying to sell something to the masses, it's easier if they're already in your audience. But we want to partner, right, with people that have already built their audience because this is smart, not hard. So we're going to be smart business people and not work harder and hustle ourselves into the ground. So I'm sure that some of you feel that way, like you're always hustling and always doing things that your coach says you need to post 4 times a day. You got to go live every day. You got to do this and you got to do that. And it's like, oh my word, like my head just exploded. I also have kids and I've got to actually run my business, right? If I have clients, I've got to actually serve the clients I have. How in the world am I going to produce 4 extra hours a day to do all these things? So PR, blogs, guest blogging for people, also doing podcasts help you share audiences that you don't have to build. It's brilliant. And that's what I do.
I love it. So I think we'll talk about our people here are so far fairly successful. Many of them actually have products and services that they are selling well, but they don't typically have the leads coming in. So let's definitely talk about those. Lisa is here. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Lisa.
And let's start with, okay, if there was one thing that really generates great quality leads quickly, what would you recommend?
The first thing that you could do, probably the easiest thing, the lowest hanging fruit, is podcasts. So if you think about all the podcasts that are out there, let's just say maybe, the 10 podcasts that you listen to the most, think about how much content they need. Now, think about how many people are at home right now. They're recording their podcasts ahead of time because they're thinking there's nothing else to do, right? I've got my business rolling. I usually have all these events I'm doing. Instead of having events, what are they doing? They're pre-recording podcasts. And every podcast host that has interviews need content, just like you. Like we're having this interview here with me. So you're bringing people in. This is valuable to your audience. And now at the end, right, the person that's coming on and is the guest can talk to the host, they can talk to the audience, they can offer something at the end. And hopefully, right, you're doing this strategically. So we want to make sure that we're not just getting into our grandma's podcast. Just because she has one doesn't mean it's good. It's kind of like everyone in Austin, Texas, where I live, has a band, right? Your grandma has a band. Everyone and their dog has a band here. They're not all getting paid, right? They're not musicians getting paid. Your grandma may have a band in her backyard. She's not getting paid. So we want to get paid. We want to make sure that we have a strategy in place to where these people are our ideal clients are in the audience, right? They actually have a viewership, and we have a angle, right? We have an angle that we're going to go in and try to sell from or try to get people onto our email list. The goal will be one of those, right? We want to either sell to them or get them on our email list. I've often said this, but if you're going on podcast, right? I'm going to look at our ideal clients are in the audience, right? They actually have a viewership. I hear myself coming back at myself. Lisa says, I was on once and loved it. You're helping me make the connection as to how to maximize it. Yes. Okay. So let's say you go onto a podcast like Lisa did and you don't have a strategy, right? It's like a missed opportunity. It's an hour of your life you're never going to get back, number one. And time is money, right? We don't want to have.
I have to confess, I love my random podcast conversations, but I will go on podcasts and talk about a bunch of things that aren't related to my business and then surprised when they don't convert.
Yes. So one of the things I teach clients when they come and they say, I want to do podcasts, that's how I want to get clients. We talk about a strategy, like a clear strategy, and having that in place so that you're not going on there and this random, you go off in the weeds because most people can't interview well. So let's say your interviewer doesn't know what to talk about. I help you get questions to give to them ahead of time to where they're not going off in the weeds. And when they ask things that do go off on some other tangent, you can bring it back and oh, that reminds me something about my program, or let me talk about a client win, that kind of thing, to where the whole interview is focused on what you want to sell on your business instead of it being this kind of vanity. I've been on a podcast. This is so fun, right? It's fun.
They're terribly fun.
It is fun, right? It makes you feel like, you're going on the Tonight Show and, Jimmy Fallon is going to play, I don't know, ping pong with you or something, but it's not helping your business, right? So we want to make sure we have a strategy and a clear strategy going in, and that includes having a freebie that audience really wants. And it has to be pretty substantial, right? It has to be a pretty good hook. This is a cold audience. They've not heard of you before. However, the thing about PR and the thing about even going to an event, when someone hands you a microphone, and that's basically what happens with a podcast, when someone says, hey, I'm going to feature you on my show, you automatically skip a few touch points. So in the advertising world, it's like 8 to 14 touch points, right? So we have 8 to 14 touch points in a cold audience.
Right.
So your cold audience doesn't know you. They have to get to know you. This is why it takes 6 months to nurture people on Facebook sometimes. They're cold. They don't know anything about you. They need to start liking you and trusting you before they'll buy. Same thing in the advertising world. When you see an advertisement for Audi, for instance, I don't have an Audi, but let's say I'm in the market for an Audi at some point. I'm going to probably be in a market for an Audi because of what I've seen on TV, but it's going to have to be over and over and over and over and over again. Now, if I could skip, like if Audi could skip some of those steps, right, and become first and foremost in my mind, then that would be money ahead for Audi. They wouldn't have to buy as many advertisements. Same thing for you. You don't have to buy as many ads. You can share this audience, right? So you're skipping touch points because they're giving you credibility. It's like, here, have a mic, right? So if the host trusts you, then the audience is more likely to trust you from the front end. Now, what you say on the podcast will make a difference. If you screw it up, then that's on you. But if you have a clear strategy going forward, it's a whole lot easier.
So, do you recommend that people have a specific opt-in or cookie when you go on a podcast, or that is targeted to that specific audience? Because this is a lot of work, and this is where my clients go, I don't want to. So
I think you'd be choosy about the podcast you get onto. That's what I think. I think you choose the podcasts that have your ideal clients. Then you have the freebie that they want, or you have the strategy call that they want. If you're having to tailor it to every single podcast, probably not a very good strategy, right? It's not going to use the time. I'm all about like, let's save time. Let's have a strategy moving forward. This doesn't make sense to have to create something new every time we go on something. You need kind of a regular thing. You know, these are the questions I'm always going to get asked. These are the things the topics that I always want to talk about. I'm not going to go over here and talk about health coaching if I'm really a fitness coach. I'm not going to talk about, maybe I don't want to talk about like vegan eating. That's not going to be my topics. I'm going to always talk about gaining muscle, looking fit without losing too much weight, or whatever your target is. But your audience needs to be people that want to get fit, right? They don't need to be vegans. So don't choose an audience that has vegans in it. And so to be careful about the podcast you get on is the key, because you don't want to waste time with the wrong people on there, because they're not going to be attracted to your program. If they don't want that freebie, they're not your people. Waste of time.
So if we're doing targeted podcasts, how many do you actually recommend that we're looking to get on to on a monthly basis, say?
Okay, so this is where it becomes probably a little bit time intensive on the front end. So you're going to research about 50 podcasts, and you're going to find about 50 targets. And what I like to do is I like to look at, okay, who have you used? Like, have you read a book of theirs? Have you bought something from them and gotten some success from it? Have you been in a group with them? Have they coached you one-on-one? Has there been some kind of connection? Have you met them at an event? Let's just go there, right? So how well do you know this person, right? And you can kind of tell, like if you don't know them at all, they're really big and you've never really heard of them and they've never heard of you, probably low chance you're going to get on that podcast. But when you look at people that possibly you have a connection to, now you can start fostering that relationship. And you may not be able to pitch to them right away. So let's say you have a friend and they have a podcast and you know each other very well, and she's looking for people and they're all your ideal clients. Perfect opportunity. It's like low-hanging fruit, right? Go pick that apple off and go do it. But the second level is this level of they don't really know you very well, but maybe you know them really well. And that is more of a chance, because now you have an opportunity to send these emails or send a message or start following them and stalking them on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and start interacting with their material, start sharing their posts, start fostering a relationship. Then when you do decide to pitch, right, you have an in. Right. I've really been enjoying your content. I've listened to your podcast. The podcast number 14 has been really important to me because it changed my life through this, and this. I really enjoyed your book about finishing the race, whatever it is. Now you have an open.
Everybody likes to hear good things about themselves if it's genuine.
No matter how big you get, right? If it is a sincere, and I always say, find something you really do like. Don't just make up something. But sincere compliments, sincere attention to, and these people want to change the world, right? They want to know that they're making a difference. So you can let them know that pretty easily. And you will get a better response if you foster that on the front end. If you really want to be on that podcast, you do have to do a little bit of work on the front end, because not everybody's going to get on there, right? So that level of knowing someone, the level of being able to foster this natural networking relationship is going to make it more likely that you will get on their show than someone that's not taken the time to do that. This is a step people miss a lot.
So I have, and I suspect LeighAnn has something like it. She probably just doesn't call it this. I have a stalker list. Literally the list of relationships that I would like to develop over the next month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. People that I really want to get to know because I want them in my network. So you should be developing those contacts and figuring out what that looks like, whether they have podcasts, whether they're potential collaborators, whether they are people who could potentially sell your thing. There are a lot of ways that you can get in with other people's networks, and you should absolutely be cultivating the ideas and the connections and ways to build those. So Danny's internet is dead.
I'm sorry. She's here in spirit.
She's here in spirit. She
She's here
says she
magically.
loves you and thank you.
She's magically in the room here.
It's a day of tech woes, I think,
Right.
is what I have for us here.
It's okay. We're rolling with it. It's fine.
So after podcasts, what else do you like to use?
I would say the next level up would be starting to do some guest blogs, and guest blogs on niched sites are easier to get a yes because they need content. So everybody needs content. Now, the top tier media, like everybody's like, I want to get into Forbes, I want to get into Entrepreneur. They're really flaky. I just have to say they're flaky. So those magazines, there is a lot of hoops you have to jump through. And there's a way to get in them. But I always start people and say, hey, there are some places that you can get into that are going to be less discouraging for you, because you might have to try a couple of different things with Forbes. You might have to go about it a different way. And there's a strategy to do that. But top tier media is hard to get into. And the top four would be Entrepreneur, Forbes, Success Magazine, and Business Insider. Those are the top four. Now, there's a lot of niched places, though, that have big viewerships and sometimes have a blog and a podcast attached. I am frozen. There we go. So they sometimes have a podcast attached, which is very convenient for us if we're trying to get on a podcast, right? So now we can go into that particular blog and we can look at the style that they're writing in. So let's say they loved what they call them listicles. Those were really big for a while. Now it's gotten to where the top three.
I'm glad they are gone, frankly.
But it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So to rank on SEO, some of these bloggers were like, 345 ways to attract clients. I'm like, really? They were doing it for SEO. No one's reading it.
Nobody read them.
But Google was really indexing it high. So they would do more and more and more to outperform the other blogs that were doing those things. Now people have lost their taste for that. Nobody wants that. So it's like one or three, like the three top ways to get clients on Instagram. That would be something maybe you could do. So whatever your area is, you go in and look at the style that they're writing in. So whatever blog you're going to, let's say you're going to a guest blog and they take articles. They take, they'll talk to you about being able to submit something yourself. Always more powerful to do an article than to get a quote. Can't always do that. Just depends on the publication. So let's say you decide to go with your 3 strategies for Instagram. Let's just do that real quick. You go onto their website and you see that those listicles are not good. Like that's not what they want. They really want a slant of how women can be more supported in the workplace if they're moms at home. And then you're like, okay, I need to take a step back. What can my angle be here? What do I have to offer this particular viewership? And look at the different things that they've written. Because if you write something pretty similar, even to the topics that they've written on before, likely they'll use it again. They've used it once, usually they'll use it again. Now you have a way in. And once you get those smaller blogs in place, now when you go pitch to the bigger ones, let's say you're pitching at INC or Fast Company, or maybe you want to pitch for Marie Claire magazine or Oprah magazine. Now you have the ability to send snippets. You can send them cuts of what you've done and where you've been published before. It's almost like everything builds on the last. Now you have credibility. Now you can show them, yeah, I have been published here, here, and here. Here's the samples of my work, etc. It is a little bit of a numbers game, so you do have to pitch. You have to just keep pitching and not get discouraged, because at some point, right, they will accept it. It's just a matter of getting the right angle at the right way.
So let's talk about how you find these places then, because my people some of them are in business, some of them are in rather niche industries. So I'm apparently having trouble playing this video. Is it just me or is it
I see you
Facebook?
fine. I think
Okay,
maybe it's your
fabulous.
internet.
It's just me. Yeah, okay, there we are. We're back. It's the technology today. It's all
It is
going
like
to
the
hell.
number one. Like
So
the number one.
if I'm looking to target like a website for astrology,
Right?
what am I looking at here? Am I looking at number of followers? Am I looking at, because most people aren't going to be able to figure out things like page views and those kinds of metrics. So how do I find places to contribute that are going to be worth my time?
Ask your clients what they're reading.
I love it.
Because it's probably not what you think, right? So I would ask like 10 of your clients or 10 people that you would think, okay, these are my niche. This is my ideal client. Just, hey, can we get on the phone for a few minutes? I'll give you a Starbucks gift card. I just want to ask you a few questions. Ask them where they're hanging out online, number one. Ask them what they're reading. Ask them what TV shows they're watching and get an idea of what they're doing, right? Now you have an idea of where they're hanging out, and it may be completely different than what you think. Like, let's say you service, I don't know, dentists or something, and you think dentists are reading the board of, dentistry, blah, blah, blah. They may be reading some kind of cosmetic magazine. Maybe they're reading, I don't know, Elle magazine. Maybe they're reading something that really has to do with beauty or improving your life, right? So maybe it's Self magazine they're reading. I don't know.
Maybe they're all playing golf.
Yeah. So they are reading something. They're reading something. They're somewhere reading something because people do consume information. But you need to find out where that is and what it is. So people do read. I see people, and back when we flew places, right, we traveled a lot. So I see people on airplanes, right, with magazines. I see them with their iPad, and they have a magazine app on the iPad. There's just, people are consuming information because it helps them either in their job or helps them understand their clients better. So we want to understand our clients well. And the way to do that and the way to know where to go put our stuff, right, is to find out where they're hanging out. And that probably isn't what you think. You need to ask.
No, and in fact, you would be surprised to discover that frequently your clients have similar hobbies. Because if you narrow down far enough on who your ideal client is, you'll discover they have a lot in common with each other. There's just... Danny and I service weirdos, and we love you all, but you do strange, fringe things that are outside of the mainstream. You are our people, but you also all tend to do things like fiber arts or paint or have very hands-on craft type activities. Most of you have plants out the wazoo, and these are things that you would not think are related to you as a business owner, but in fact are things that we have identified for our ideal client.
Right, exactly. So for instance, like I have a lot of strange friends because I was talking to you this the other day. I did the Renaissance Fair circuit when I was younger. I played in a band, and we had a niche band that was ideally suited for that. So I have friends still in that world, and they are all, like you said, they all either paint. Like I was going down my feed earlier, and there was a guy, he actually helps people learn how to build haunts. So haunted houses. And so he's got a very niche, he's got a YouTube channel. He helps people all over the world figure out how to do masks and how to do costumes and how to do makeup and how to be scary, right? He does workshops. So that is a very niche thing, right? So he's talking to people over in France. He's helping them do a mold for a mask. Likely they're consuming the same type of things. They're watching the same shows. They're watching that costume show that you create the monster, you create the makeup. It's like the special effects shows. They have a certain type. And I hate to say that because it does make it sound like we're all like, oh, we're all special. Yes, you are, but there is a tendency towards certain types of consumables that you're taking in, just like his people are all taking in kind of the same thing. It's likely very similar. Like they all have a lot of pets. Everybody's got, there's certain characteristics about these people that are pretty much, I've found to be pretty much universal. No, and not everybody's the same, but they are consuming some of the same stuff.
Right.
They're watching the same movies. They're watching the same news. They have kind of the same political viewpoints. There's a commonality, maybe more than you think.
So I think the biggest question I would have for you is how you would identify just the strategy for what you need to do on a regular basis. PR is a lot of work, and it's also very habitual. You got to schedule it in. So what do you personally schedule in? How often are you looking for guest posts? How often are you looking for interviews? How often are you looking to do whatever it is?
Well, I don't always look for it because I'm really, really busy. Like
you're asked a lot, I'm sure, at this point in time.
And that's the other thing is that once you kind of get your name out there, like people sort of come to you. So the last interview I got was with the Ladders magazine, which is a kind of a high-end magazine for corporate people who are looking for jobs that are over like 100K a year. So I had several people recommend me to the same person, and so she did an interview with me. But for the regular person, like, right, if you just are starting out, you're like, what do I do first? I would say get a list of 50 podcasts together that you want to get onto. Start nurturing those relationships and treat it like you would like your social media strategy. Let's say you're on social media and you're really interacting with maybe 5 people a day. I would say, okay, 5 people a day you're interacting with, you're trying to get relationships built. Maybe you're pitching to one of those people just to kind of, get in the flow. Go ahead and start saying, hey, I'm available for podcasts. That would be the first thing I would do. I'm available for podcasts. Get some practice in, figure out what your questions need to be, kind of get a feel for how it is when you go onto one. These don't necessarily have to be super strategic, but you can kind of get an idea of what do I need to do? Like, these are going to be people that maybe are not great interviewers. Now you have a chance to steer the conversation your way, possibly pick up some clients or possibly pick up some names. Now you can go in and have a lot more confidence when you go and pitch these bigger places. But I would just say have a discipline to it, right? Don't go and do 20 one day and don't do any for 3 weeks. Like that's like the worst, that's the worst strategy ever. I would just start saying, okay, every time I read something, every time I talk to a client and they say, hey, I read this magazine, write it down, right? Figure out who's in charge, kind of try to develop a relationship with that person or see what they're publishing and start pitching to those people. And don't get discouraged because you're going to get they won't even answer, right? It's like, it's no risk really because they don't answer. It's not like they're rejecting you right outright. But you, a lot of times, won't get an answer. You'll follow up once, you'll possibly follow up twice, and then give them a chance and say, hey, I'm not going to pitch this anymore. I'm going to take this to another magazine. I'm giving you one last chance, right? Because sometimes the editors will be like, oh, yeah, we do want to use that.
Now, quick question. Completed piece or just an idea?
It's usually just an idea.
Okay.
And a lot of times it will say on the website, like they will say, this is the guidelines. Follow the guidelines exactly. Don't.
Oh yeah, no. Always read the submission guidelines and pitch them what they ask for.
I think you would be surprised at how many people don't do that. So make sure you're reading the guidelines, but also make sure that you are, if they only ask for just a snippet, and they usually don't always want your article already done, they will want it. They kind of want it in their format, and they have a style. So the easier way would be to pitch the idea. And then if they don't want the idea, don't write it in that style. Like go to the next, it's like the less work for you, right?
Right.
So don't pitch it in that style. Just take your idea, right? And then go to the next publication, whatever it is. Look at their style, look at their headlines, try to develop a headline that's similar. If they've written about anything that's similar to what you want to write about, get that old headline and just rework it a little bit. And do your own take. like I said, if they've done it once, they may do it again. So just make sure that those things are in place. But a lot of times they don't want finished articles unless it's like Thrive Global and you're publishing it directly to the medium. It's very few of those.
But Thrive Global is worth keeping in your back pocket simply as a credit, right? If you have nothing, you can publish to Thrive Global tomorrow, and now you have a credit in your credit reel as seen on Thrive Global.
I would
Mind Body Green. There are a few of those that you can go to at least get started with credits.
Medium and Elephant Journal will be the other two. Thrive Global doesn't accept everybody, though. You'd be surprised. So you have to make sure that it's within their parameters. And once you do that,
I would argue that Thrive's parameters are complete sentences without spelling. And
no, I've known people. I have not my clients, but I've known people that could not get in. So
really, well, then I will consider that, I guess, a mark of, because I've never had anything rejected over there.
But we want to pick that low hanging fruit, and
right.
likely too, if you know someone that has a blog, right, go write for them. Because every time you get something that links back to your website, it makes you higher up in Google. It gives you more credibility when you do have, the opportunity to pitch and they ask you for samples. It's good to have something to say, here's my article in Thrive Global. Here's my article in Medium. Here's my article in Yahoo News or whatever it is you're in. Now you have something to send.
Well, I have a few more minutes with you, so I'm also going to pick your brain about summits. Yeah. Okay. I'll be honest. I've participated in a number over the years.
I have
some that were even particularly well targeted and had fairly good audiences. They did not convert for me.
Okay.
Not because of my freebie, not because of my offer, but simply because I think people say they're going to summits and don't actually attend. So how can you judge what makes a summit worth your time?
Well, okay. I would say that if you're going to get people to the summit, you probably need to charge a little bit. I hate to say that, but you probably do need to charge a little bit, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but it could be a little bit, and then you're going to give them something in return. So it might be like a workbook that has everybody's stuff in it, or maybe it's free sessions with everybody. Maybe it's that you're really paying an amount for, and then there's an outcome involved. The other way that you can use summits are, and people don't know this. Once you do a summit, let's say you do a summit with 4 people, and it's maybe you write a book in a weekend or something like that. That's a summit. So in the weekend, everybody has a book at the end. Now you have a lead magnet. So summits for Facebook ads don't cost very much. Facebook ads for summits are cheap.
Okay.
So targeted Facebook ads, targeting coaches, targeting whoever you want to target. Let's say it's a very niched audience. It is cheap to use a summit to do that rather than a webinar. I don't know why. It's probably because Facebook thinks, you're doing a summit, you're probably doing this free or whatever it is. But let's say you want to use that as your lead magnet to get people into your world. It's very effective because you can run a lot of ads to a summit. A summit is very non-threatening. We're not going to be sold to at the end. I'm going to learn how to do something, right? So it's different than a webinar when people kind of feel like I'm going to be pressured to buy. I don't want to sit through their story. This doesn't really have a lot of value to me. So it's actually more effective to use these summits as a lead magnet. And that is the tool that you use to get people into your world. Now you can start nurturing them, give them your freebie, get them on the phone, sell them into a low offer, whatever it is you want to do. And now you've got a tool that you can use and retarget instead of these evergreen webinars that are really expensive. These Facebook ads are really expensive to run.
For webinars, yes, they are. The cost per impression on
really high. It's like $8.
Really high.
I think it's lower now because of the
since Corona. But it used to be up in the 8 per impression.
It was like $8.30 or something like that, which is an enormous. That's really high for your leads, especially if a webinar, only 50% of the people will attend that sign up. Only about maybe 18% of those will buy. Now you've got to get, 3,000 people on your webinar. 3,000 times 8. It's a lot of people. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Mhm.
But if you think about a summit, maybe is only possibly maybe $1 a lead or less, then you're good to go, right? That's good. That's a good return on investment because you're getting leads in, right? It's not necessarily you're
Mhm.
going to sell to them, but you're getting leads in. You're increasing your audience. Everything's going well. You have a group. Maybe you're funneling them into the group, and that's where everybody comes from your client list. And that's money well spent. That's time well spent. Most summits they don't have an outcome, and so and they're just getting anybody, like anybody can sign up, and so there's not a specific parameter. Like I want to do a summit all about podcasts and getting yourself into podcasts, and how do you do that, and how do you maximize this. So I want to pull in like a confidence expert that does confidence and teaches people how to overcome stage fright, and then maybe someone that's like in the publishing world that talks about publishing with podcasts. If you have a book coming up, how do you promote your book, right? So that's like a cohesive summit that has a clear outcome. Or let's say the book in a weekend, that would be a clear outcome.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So I'm thinking Danny and I just attended Melanie Ann Layer's Queens of the Internet Summit. I don't know if you saw ads for it. It was fairly well attended. They got several hundred
So,
people. But you're right about that, in that while there was a clear message of self-improvement, there wasn't a mission, maybe an objective. And at the end of the day, if the summit you're looking at has one, it's probably going to do much better for you than
I think
not.
so. I think so. And that's, you also got to think, what's my goal, right? It's
Mhm.
always about what the goal is. What is your goal strategically, and what is this going to do for your business? Is this going to help your business? Is this not going to help your business? If it's not, again, it's a waste of time. It may feel really good. It may seem really good. It probably is good when you're first starting out to get kind of some media, because you usually get a graphic, which is nice to put up on your website that you've been on these summits. It does give you a little bit more credibility. But once you've been going in business a while, you need to really start thinking about your time, right? Your time is valuable, right?
Mhm.
And unless it's a really good friend or someone that you really love, to work with and you want to work with, then, maybe check yourself on the summit. If there's a million people on it, right, and you're not going to get exposed to many people, then maybe that's not good use of your time. Maybe building all of that out and having a presentation and slides and all that stuff is not good use of time.
I would argue it is worth your time live and in person when we
Yes,
get back to those
yes. Well,
live
and
events.
and the live summit, doesn't have to have a clear outcome. A live summit, there's enough energy in the room that people are lifted anyway. And there's also like a 40% conversion rate. So your time, right, is valuably, it's spent well there. But on virtual summits, there is too big of an opportunity to just pop off. The dog has an accident in the corner and you got to go take care. The kid has spread peanut butter all over the floor and things are on fire in your house.
Mhm.
You're not going to keep attending the summit,
Nope.
right?
You're gonna go deal with the fire and
Yeah.
the peanut
If,
butter
if
and then
if they
have a
lit
glass of
themselves
wine
if they
and
lit themselves and the dog on fire, it's time to put that out. There's not time. But if you're at a live event, right? You have childcare. You've decided that time is going to be spent here. You're in the room and present.
Mhm.
So different than an
Really
online
is
summit.
huge.
Okay, so Lisa says, this is my biggest challenge or priority right now, clarifying my mission before I do any of this other stuff. Yeah, and I would just say, clarify your strategy, right? You don't have to have a mission necessarily, just your strategy for your business. Who do you want in your business? Who's your client, right? And just speak to what do they ask you about? What do they talk about? What do they need? That's the stuff that people will read. It doesn't have to be fully fleshed out. It could just be like a question. How do you do so-and-so?
And if I look at the work from 5 years ago or 10 years ago that I have produced along this journey, there is no cohesive message, but I've gotten much better at identifying who I work with and who I want to work with along the way. And you do that just by doing it.
Yeah. And as you serve more people, the same questions come up over and over, almost in any business,
Yes, they
honestly.
do.
They,
Yes.
they come up in any business. Everybody wants to know how to get clients. Everybody wants to know how to speak to their people. Everybody wants to know how to make more money. Everybody wants to know how to get healthier, or how to have better relationships, or I don't know, how to become a better learner to where I can learn faster. Whatever it is your people want, there's something they have in common. So you just have to find out what that is, and then go on these websites and see what they're writing about. And then
Make yourself available.
you'll get a
So,
lot of ideas.
so how do they work with you closer, LeighAnn, if they would like to?
They can book a call with me.
Okay.
So I also have some freebies on my website. I'm not sure exactly it would be something that this would be related to media, but I would love to talk with you if you want to get a strategy to move forward. Let's say you just want a clear strategy of how do I approach these podcasts? Where would I go approach them? How do I formulate my strategy for that? I would be happy to get on a phone call with you and talk that through with you. So let's say Lisa says she wants to clarify her mission. Instead of clarifying your mission, we could get a strategy together to get you on podcasts, or to get you into media, or whatever it is that you want to do.
Well, LeighAnn, thank you so much for joining us today. And putting up with all of our tech difficulties. I'm glad we finally got it worked out.
I have enough of those myself.
Thank you so much. Lisa says thank you. I cannot thank you enough. Guys, on Thursday, we will have the beautiful priestess Contessa here, who will be talking to us about working with your spirit guides in your business. So that's our witchy woo day. On Thursdays, we'll talk about the spiritual side. And then next week, we're going to start talking about how to get the hell out of your own way, which I always feel is relevant at any time. How to stay out of your own way in your business, right?
Exactly.
Thank you so much, LeighAnn. It was lovely to have you. And we will see you all again later. Bye.
Bye-bye.